Alright, Jack here, and I had a script, or I have a script, it's right here, but I'm going to probably change it a bit, because this is like take 5. And the fact is, I haven't posted a video since May, so this is going to be a little bit longer, I guess, than I wanted it to be. But I'm going to try going in order of importance, so that those of you who get bored can just turn it off when you get bored. And yeah, as of 2 days ago, I've been on testosterone for 6 months, and with that comes changes, of course. Beautiful changes, not so beautiful changes. And I'm going to start by talking about the physical things that have happened since the last video that I posted, and then after that I'll go into, let's see, which one was I going to do next? I'll go into some personality changes. The first personality change I'm going to go into is, a change in tolerance. I'm saying this for myself, by the way. My change in tolerance for other people, and then I'm going to go into my sexual changes, because those, I mean, it's not that they're less important, it's that there's something triggering in them, and I want people to have the opportunity to turn the video off. So anyway, 6 months, yay, half a year, it's my half birthday, and I'm going to start by talking about physical changes. The first and most obvious change is my voice has gone down a little bit more. I don't notice. It's funny because people act as though it's really weird that I don't notice how much my voice has changed, but the fact is, I live with myself. I just don't notice. I don't even notice the fact that I've got so much more facial hair than I used to, and it's right there, and I tug on it. It's annoying, but if I get rid of it, I get more dysphoric, even though it's scrubby teenage crap. So yeah, I did shave it off to go to my job interviews, and then I got a job and I let it grow back. Yeah. Anyway, so there's that. Those are the basic physical changes. I have more facial hair. My hand and arm shapes have changed. I'm getting hair on my hands. I'm getting hair everywhere. But other than that, that's basically all that has happened since my last video. The injections are also getting pretty easy, and I'm gonna post a video on the technique that I use, because it's something that I haven't seen in the trans male vlogosphere so far. I assume it's out there, but I have been doing it one-handed, because the thickness or the strength of the skin has changed, and so it's hard to just push it in there, push the needle in there. It doesn't want to go in. And so I use my left hand to pinch the skin, my right hand to inject, and I think it's a cool technique, so I'm going to show you that. Yeah. So there's that. Personality changes. There are 2 basic categories of personality changes that I'm going to go into. The first is the way I relate to other people, and that was originally supposed to go last, but I'm going to put that next, because, I mean, again, it's because of the trigger warning that I'm going to have. And the second category has been sexual changes. So anyway, I have been identifying more as pansexual, although I also identify as bisexual. I don't know if I made a video about this, but the fact is, the pansexual community has annoyed me for years. And it's not because I have a problem with pansexuality, it's because the pansexual community as a whole has defined itself in, I don't even know the word I'm looking for here. It's defined itself against bisexuality. So when you ask somebody to define pansexual, what you're often going to hear is something, is basically this alternative to bisexuality. That's basically what the definition has been. And in doing so, they wind up defining bisexuality in a rather inaccurate manner, because a bisexual and a pansexual person might have the exact same type of attraction. Bisexuals do not necessarily only limit themselves to men and women, and they never have. There are a lot of bisexuals who do, but a lot of bisexuals don't. So saying that pansexuals are open to all gender and sexual expressions, whereas bisexuals are only into 2, is inaccurate. And it pisses off those bisexuals for whom that does not apply. So there's that. And that has been what has preventing me from using the term pansexual, because, yeah, I don't like that. After a while, I realized that bisexuals are similar. And, yeah, so I identify as both. And it just depends on where I am and what people are going to read those as meaning. I don't have a problem with either one. But the change here is that my tolerance for different groups of people has just increased. And it's not just the pansexual community that I'm now more tolerant of. It is everybody. Basically anybody who isn't harming somebody else has gone into my brain as a perfectly supportable community. we'll say that. To use a today example, I was watching Taboo today, which is this really sensationalized show on, I think, National Geographic, that showcases different cultures and alternative lifestyles throughout the world, but a lot of them in the United States. And I read comments on things like Get Glue, where people will watch Taboo and they'll say things like, "Oh, how disgusting," or "God, what a freak." And I am less likely to think things like that. I've never really vocalized things like that because I think it's rude, but even just thinking things like that, I just don't do anymore. So they had a woman with BIID, and BIID is body integrity identity disorder, which means that they feel as though they should have had a particular disability that they don't actually have. And it's a brain mapping disorder, if you look at the literature. So somebody might feel as though their arm is not supposed to be there from, like, here up. And they're very detailed about that, like, it's this arm and it's from here up. And they might even look for surgery in order to get that part of their body removed. And I just recognized that I now no longer have a problem with that. Like, I just don't, it's not even that I don't care, it's that I do care, because, like, why should I have a problem with that? And similarly, what was another one? Today they had an adult baby on there, and people were really like, "Oh, gross, what, like, how could you be like that?" But I mean, the fact is, the guy is a productive member of society anyway. He's an accomplished handyman, they said, and he just happens to, when he goes home, pretend that he is a baby to a woman who is perfectly happy pretending to be his foster mother. Why should I have a problem with that? Like, there's no problem there. I mean, there is a problem, but I mean, it's not with him being an adult baby, it's the fact that he was abused as a child. But that's the problem, not him being an adult baby, and so on and so forth. And objectum sexuals, I'm fine, I don't care. There was that woman who married the Eiffel Tower. Again, all power to her. So, like, my tolerance for that sort of thing has increased. And it's interesting because certain opinions that I hold about those still stand. It's just that I'm not as, what's the word? I'm not as openly opinionated about them because I think that they're side issues, which are parallel, I guess, to the main issue that I want: acceptance of people. So, for example, I might explain to a Therian that, for example, the word transspecies is not appropriate, because, and I'll go into why that is. This video isn't about that, though, but I don't consider comparisons to transgender people appropriate for Therians or people with BIID, or for various, mostly social reasons. So I'll explain that, but it doesn't mean that I have a problem with them or what they believe. It has to do with certain other things. So, and I'm less likely to actually bring that up, because again, I just don't care that much anymore, and I don't think that they reflect on me in any way, and so on. So yeah, there's that. But now that I've rambled on that enough, I'm going to go into the sexual changes, and I'm going to warn you that there's a bit of a rape trigger, maybe. I don't know, because I can't judge people's triggers, but it has to do with rape fantasies, so if you're uncomfortable with hearing about that, then turn this off. Anyway, I have had changes in sexual desire that have been going up and down in these really uncomfortable ways. And now I'm at a really settled point, and I'm actually really happy with the point I'm at right now. But for a while, it actually was downright alarming, the things that I would think about. And I have never once thought that I was actually capable of being a predator of any sort, but that's actually probably why things like this have made me so uncomfortable, because I know that this is something bad and something that I don't want in the world. Anyway, so it started with general rape fantasies, which I've had pre-T. I had them as a woman as well, and the fact is, even knowing that these things are not good, that's a very common fantasy, and it has very little to do with actually wanting to rape somebody and actually wanting to be raped. There's a great deal of psychological otherness that goes into it, and it has to do with other things, we'll put it that way. But I've always been not comfortable with having them, but like tolerant of them, because I've known that I'm not a predator. And so, I mean, it was there, but it wasn't something that I really concerned myself with. But for a while, it was escalating to a point that was, again, alarming. So I wouldn't have just rape fantasies. I would have these really disgusting, really violent fantasies that aren't even really rape fantasies anymore. And it got to the point where, and it's really almost uncomfortable for me to say this, like, I would need to go and I'd look up this really disgusting pornography, and it got to the point where I actually downloaded stuff to my Firefox browser, specifically so that I could block websites that were enabling this sort of fantasy. And I deleted accounts, and I didn't watch anything illegal that I'm aware of, but it got really bad. So I got rid of all of that, and I'm like, alright, anything that exists in my head I'm going to be fine with, or at least tolerate, but I'm not going to, like, put this out there at all anymore, because it just got alarming. And I talked to my therapist about this. It got that bad. I didn't talk to my therapist that much, because she was a means to an end. Well, exactly it. She was a means to an end for me. But I actually talked to her about that. Here's the interesting part, and it's nice. That actually tapered off a great deal, and my fantasies have entirely shifted, where I can't get off on that stuff anymore. And I hope it stays like that. My fantasies all converted to, almost all of them have been about loving all same-sex polyamorous relationships. And that's not that weird, because certain poly relationship styles are actually really appealing to me, but it's gotten involved, we'll say. And I think it's largely because the raise in my sex drive has made me really lonely. And it's really obvious, too, because I go on websites like FetLife, and I spend a lot more time there than usual, we'll say that. And I actually respond to people's messages, which is something that I've never really done. And I've started to gain fetishes, too, and again, they're harmless. These ones are harmless. The ones before, those weren't really fetishes so much as bizarre things that went through my mind when I was really horny. Now it's like it's interesting. And I want a t-shirt that says, "This testosterone made me a fucking furry." And I say that because this is something that it crossed my mind before I was on testosterone, but it crossed my mind in one of those, like, I'm an outside supporter of a particular group of people type things. And I actually tried, like, furry porn, for example, just to see, because I'm willing to try new things. And it did nothing for me, like, literally nothing. I would watch and I might consider it funny, but other than that, nothing. And then it hit me at just the wrong place at the wrong time, and suddenly it's one of my primary kinks. And I can't tell you how bizarre that feels. I know that there are some guys out there who have had their sexual orientation change, And I imagine that it's got to be somewhat like that, because I too have had my sexual orientation change, but it wasn't due to testosterone or a raise in sex drive, and it's a weird, different feeling. But yeah, like, my sexual orientation didn't change in any other way. I gained kinks, and I had an uncomfortable period of fantasies, but other than that, I mean, it's not been a huge problem for me. But yeah, it's interesting because I think people hear things like personality changes and they freak out without realizing that they're not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes they're uncomfortable, but I mean, especially in the case of me going from opinionated and intolerant to being less opinionated and intolerant, I don't think that that's a bad thing. And since the violent, terrible fantasies sort of went away, I'm not worried about that either. They were probably some sort of other response to things that are going on, and I'll just focus on the stuff that isn't as freaky, like furries. So yeah, that's what I have for now. I'll talk to you more when I have more to talk about. Happy trails, and I will see you next time.